Okay, people, glad everybody could make it today to another edition of Tuning In with Tony. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about boxed in thinking and what is that all about. And by the way, today's color is red. And so if you have anything red, even a red fruit, a red apple, anything red, pretty much good. I've got a fire agate, red agate here. I've got red jasper. And I've got red tiger's eye. Anything in that would be good. And it just has that fiery element that we want to bring today. It's going to really rock in terms of the things that we're going to do today. We're going to give you a different perspective of what boxed in thinking is all about. Because we hear this a lot, and some people have an idea what it is. And I actually looked it up. The definition of boxed in thinking is it's an in the box thinking means to innovate within the constraints defined by the box. It is more generally described as a constraint based innovation. Okay. The other part of it is as we are out of the box thinking is what most people want. We use that when we apply creative thinking. And we hear that, right? Then let's think outside the box. And we have this idea what outside of the box would be. If you were in a box, this is our very limited space. So we have to think outside of this to bring something in that's creative, right? This is sort of the idea about that. So people that are often overlooked and call and do those things that are inside the box, we want to stay away from that. So this is a very popular saying, and Spirit wanted to sort of give you an idea of what this is really about, because we get the different parts of it. First of all, you're an absolutely limitless being. We came to this earth as a transcendental free spirit, and we wanted to experience what constraints and boundaries and limits feel like. Okay? And what that means is that in a non-physical perspective, when we are in non-physical, when we're pure energy, there's no limits. We know everything about the universe. We know everything about, there's an order in everything. There's so many things that come up. So we are a limitless being, but we want to feel what it's like when we are in a constraint-based environment, so we could still function as a limitless being in this environment. Does that make sense? That's why we come in many ways. So the only way to really get out of this kind of boxed-in thinking is to not just get out of the box, Spirit says, is to be able to think outside of this world, because the whole world is a box. All right, that's the first perspective. All right, I just want you to sort of nibble on that for a little bit. And as far as the different ways that we have boxed in thinking, there are so many ways, limitless. With the media, visual. There's so many different ways that we are programmed from cradle to grave on how we have to think within a certain constraint environment. I am really involved with tuning forks, as you know, vibrations and sounds and what that does. And so for this segment, we're going to touch on how sounds of this earth start the boxed in thinking. Okay? The first part of it is our 12-tone temperament in our music. The music is one of the biggest things. Up until about 1,000 years ago, we had a series of music. We've always had music on this earth for as long as as humans have been on this earth. We've always had some form of music. But that music was changed about 1,000 years ago to our present 12-tone temperament. And in other words, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, there's a beginning to that scale and there's an ending. Right? It sounds like it's a complete circle. That sounds good. And then they go up in octaves, and sometimes up to 5, 6 octaves to get to like a higher, but it's still in that 12-tone temperament. It's still do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do in the higher tones. Okay. But Spirit says all of that is still boxed in because it completes the entire music for you, where it doesn't require your creativity. In the original sounds, it was do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and it stopped there. And it almost feels like there should be something after that, right? But there isn't. What comes after that is you. You fill in the additional sounds. You fill in the unlimited. So the music was unlimited. People were very spiritual. If you look at even the myths, all of our history, 1,000 years ago, we were blessing gods. We were very much a spirit-minded population on Earth. And when the sounds were changed, it was in this boxed feeling. So those people can be sort of controlled. They didn't want a lot of free thinking people at the time, and that thing still exists today. But the frequencies are very, very important. The frequencies have been changed and sort of played with a little bit over the centuries. But we've come up with various geniuses that's come into our lives, like Beethoven and Mozart, all of these. And they've taken that 12-tone temperament and they've made it into a mathematical piece of art in terms of its sounds. And even though the sounds may not be limitless, the way that it was done, numerology, that has given us, again, this higher level of thinking. So if you are a person that likes to listen to classical music, you will think differently than if you're always listening to like AC/DC or just a common music that we hear every day. It's not that you are any smarter, it's just that your mind is wired then differently because math is involved. That's why it's still being played to this date, and they're hundreds and hundreds of years old. It'll be interesting to see how our music today, how long that will last. It will last as long as the baby boomers, and then other ones will create their own music and so on. But all to say that sounds and frequencies are very important. But what it does is that when it starts wiring, when you hear the right sounds, when you hear more of the sounds like the Om, you know the Om, when you get into a meditation, you have that sound, Om. It's a special frequency. The exact frequency in hertz, that's the vibrations per second, is 136.1 hertz. And that's the same vibration as the Earth, as it spins on its axis. We just don't hear it. It's just brought down by many, many octaves so we can hear it. We normally don't hear this. What happens, though, is when we hear more of these sounds, we get into this other state of another part of us. Okay, but in the sounds that we hear, what happens is we try to solve the problems through a limited space on the same on the same part that created the problem in the first place. In other words, just to define this, if you have, let's say, a budget problem, and you're trying to get out of a budget because every single month you're seeing that you're in a deficit and you can't get out of that deficit. And you're trying with your logical mind to see, okay, if I spend less here and, not go out so much, and whatever the logistical human solutions you might think, you'll go through that and it's not sustainable. And the next month you're still in the deficit. I know a couple that it goes through about $160,000 a year, no kids, and they are in debt. All the credit cards are maxed out. And could you imagine if they would have had 2 kids that they have to send to college and just do? It's just the 2 of them. Now, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but what I am saying is they're trying to figure it out what the problem is, and because of their thinking and the way that their thinking patterns work, they're trying to solve it, but the mind is actually creating the problem, right? But they can't see it. They just can't see, well, what's wrong with spending $4,000 on Uber Eats? I don't understand. What's the problem with that? In other words, the other people will see it very clearly, but this is the issue, okay? So when you are looking at and hearing music that are constantly the same temperament. That's why Spirit is saying, even if you don't listen to like a lot of meditation tapes, listen to Moroccan music, listen to music from Portugal, listen to Italian music, listen to Japanese, China, whatever it is, but a different form of music and sounds and frequencies. And even though it's still in the 12-tone temperament, they'll have a different math, they'll have a different way that the mind will be wired, and it will improve the way that you can solve problems. Okay? Now, the other thing about beliefs and about things that are happening, especially problems that we're trying to figure out, a recent article came out that the American Psychology Association put out an article, and this was very recent, that masculinity is bad. Masculinity is toxic. Masculinity is dangerous. And this breeds life into the new definition of toxic masculinity. And what's happening now is that I had to read this a couple of times, they are now training young men to tell them that being a man is bad for their mental health because it's dangerous, it can be toxic, it can be dangerous. So let's nip this in the bud. And what this will do over the next series of years, I'm not saying what it will do, but I'm saying that the belief now is people are looking at what is wrong with me. And then when other things are coming into play, where are they getting the information? Where are they getting the answers to the questions they may have? Like, who am I? What am I here to do? And all they're hearing, right? All they're hearing is there's something wrong with them. And so they're constantly going through this boxed in sort of feeling about what it all means. Okay. Now, when we talk about the various things about blending into society, how do we blend in? And as long as we say things that that the government is doing or that other people are doing, everything seems to be fine. But if you look at the news, look at the mainstream, like just recently, this is very current news. Being white is bad. Being unvaxxed is bad. Being vaxxed is bad. Having your own opinion is bad. So they're labeling all of the basic freedoms that we used to have as being bad, and they're trying to redefine it. And how are we taking all of this? With all of us trying to find out, on top of the earth changing its vibration, and there's a lot of shifts going on there alone, we're getting this particular shift. And how do we get through it all? How do we find out really what is true, really what is real? Because it is said that the longest distance you will ever travel in your life is from your head to your heart. That 18 inches will be the longest trip you'll ever make, because as soon as you are connected to your heart, and the head is also we're not here to take the mind out. We need the mind, but we have to have a balance. It can't just be the mind, and it can't just be the heart. Because if it's just the heart, then we're always in this sort of spacey land and nothing ever gets done. But the head says, let's do it now. Let's do it and get it done now. And that's the energy I was going through over the last week. I've been reformatting and re-engineering the meditation recordings that I had on the podcast. And what I did 2 years ago seemed okay. And I listened the other day with it, and I go, wow, that's really not going to be, no, we have to change those. So I had 36 meditation tapes and 36 recordings I had to change. Some of them I had to totally scrap and start over and then just do it the way Spirit, and all of it was channeled. In fact, it was a co-creation. They said what frequency to use. I got the frequency, and I had to get a numerology in there, and I had to get various, and it was an incredible experience getting Spirit and myself to design this for people to now in 2023 be able to listen to this, where it would start making sense, where it would do a lot of the work. All you have to do, you don't even have to meditate anymore. You just listen to the sounds and the frequency. We're going to have one today that we're going to listen to give you that example. Okay. And that's what's where we're gonna help. But in that, when you're connected to your heart, it is always to find out what is the illusion and what is real. And that's what we hear a lot when people come to us for readings. What am I supposed to do? What is real? Am I supposed to be with this guy? Am I supposed to be with this woman? Like, what do I need to do? So there's a lot of question about what's real, what's fantasy, because they're getting one thing, but they're not feeling that that's it. And that's one of the biggest things. I mean, even AI, CGI, fake news, that's all coming up right now, and it's all about illusion. And people are making a lot of money doing these things. And it's just interesting because recently I found a video about a new movie coming up by Michael J. Fox, the guy that made Back to the Future. And it's another sequel for Back to the Future, and it's amazing. And there was all these action, and you would see Michael J. Fox jumping over cars, and he said, "Oh man, he was great." I don't know how the hell they did that in terms of the stunt and everything else, but I know he's got Parkinson's and has some challenges. But in the movie, he was awesome. And I was looking at when this movie would come out and so on. I find that it's fake. It's not happening. And then I sort of checked it with Spirit, and I says, okay, my knee-jerk reaction was to say, I want to watch this movie, rather than saying, is this true? And Spirit says, no, it's not true. It's not coming out. It says, oh man, it was it. So just with our AI, there's so many things that they could put your face into anybody. They could make your voice into anybody, and they could convince anybody of anything, because now they have this technology that they could put us into a place that really we were never there, sort of thing. And so what is real? And so when we are connected to our heart, that will always tell you that no, that's fake. And when I start doing that now, I'm seeing that there's a lot. I'm seeing 25% of the stuff that I'm watching isn't real. I go, wow, like this wasn't like this years ago. I don't know where all this is coming from, right? And so when you are looking at this, you're looking at what is real, what is something that I need to look into and find my need to connect. And that's really what it's all about. Because when we're not sure of things, that's when fear comes in, right? Fear can come in so many ways. And we hear this a lot, where fear isn't real. It's basically a construct of what the mind is doing. It's telling you that, oh yeah, that relationship that you're trying to do, that's going to fall apart. The business that you're going into won't work. The money that you're investing in this whatever program is not going to work. You're going to lose your money. But only thing that is real is love. When you put your passion in anything, there's energy. There's this, that's the energy I was feeling when I was redoing these meditations. I was so focused that the phone would ring and I would not hear it. It was just so incredible excitement. And it was that excitement that created these new meditation tapes that are very powerful. So this is where we want to look. But when we feel fear, that's usually in my head, because it's usually these golf balls or bouncing balls in my head that's just bouncing all over, and it's creating fear and doubt and uncertainty. And I think a lot of people are feeling that. I'm not sure if you're feeling that, but if you know somebody who's always doubting themselves, always second guessing themselves, like they'll look at something and say, yep, okay, I'm going to make this decision and let's do it. And the moment they decide, I hope it's going to be okay, they already have uncertainty after they've made the decision, because their mind is trying to decipher what is real, what is not real. And it is so good that it even fooled me until I connected and then got another piece of data. Okay, it's about that. But when we look at really where we are when it comes to emotion, when we feel low energy, when we feel these boxed in feeling that we're confined, we feel fear, we have guilt, we have resentment, we might feel some anger. Whenever these low energies are coming up, we feel more like matter, than we do of energy, because all of us are pure energy. I mean, we hear it all the time from scientists. There's so much electrical currents going through our body. Literally, we could light up a city under the right conditions and with the right technology. But we feel depleted. We feel like we're low energy. And that's when we feel more like we're just a body. It is just so insignificant. We're just a body. And so when we feel that way, how does that make us feel? How we can get out of this sort of boxed in feeling? When we even look at the term boxed in feeling, and I did this on purpose to give you this analogy of what this boxed in feeling is, because Spirit says they never invented the term boxed in feeling. They didn't bring that in. We were told it was a boxed in feeling because what happens is when we try to, how do you get out of a box? If you look at it this way, if you're in a box, how do you get out of it? By trying to break through the walls, by trying to get out of the top or trying to get out and out of that box. But what happens is we get out of the box and that could be successful. But then what happens is we are in a larger box. Have you ever had a Christmas present that had like maybe 10 boxes starting off with, and it's a small one and it turns into this big freezer sized box and it all opens up? Well, that's what sort of happens when you break out of one box, there's another box in there. You break out of that box and there's another box. So Spirit says it's a never ending series of boxes, but you're still in a box. Okay, so Spirit is sort of suggesting we're going to rename this. We're going to get you to look at this in a different perspective. The way that we get out of anything is not to get out of anything, is to go within. So it isn't really a box, it is more of a lock. And it's the lock that you put a key in. Because if you are locked in, you could do whatever you want with that lock. And it doesn't do anything until you go inside the lock, get all the tumblers to line up so that you could turn it and you can set yourself free. It's more about that. It is not a box to start with. But I told you the box because that is something that you could relate to, right? So Spirit wanted you to see how easy it is just to be able to adapt a certain imagery. Yes, I'm in a box, but you never were in a box. All of us are locked or we're unlocked. Because whatever the passion is, to try, they want you to exude out. And what does this mean, Tony? So what? So it is a box or a lock. What's the difference? Well, the difference is when the pattern is for you to move out is your freedom, that means you have to look for other people. What am I supposed to do? What do you think I should do? Should I get married? What do you think? In other words, you're asking other people what you should be doing. It is that, and we see this a lot. People are so uncertain. Some people are saying, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, right? And even if I knew the answer, if I told them the answer, it would disempower them. So I love the person so much and I respect them so much not to say anything. However, I'll tell them how to find it. I'll give them the tool. And when they find it, I've empowered them. But if I tell them, I haven't done anything for them. That is the best gift you could find. If somebody is having trouble opening a beer bottle, just give them the opener. Don't open it for them. That's one example. So in the affirmations, this is another reason why when you hear on the internet, so many people are coming on, oh, guys, if you want to manifest something, what you need to do is, the book Think and Grow Rich. I've seen this and it's been bombarding the social media big time. Think of what you want. Think of the house that you're going to go in and just go there. Put yourself in the living room and look at the lanai, they call that in Hawaii, and is this porch and it's a backyard. You've got an unlimited pool. You've got, and how big is this house? It's a 4,000 square foot home. And it's a sunny day. You can smell the sun. It's hot, and you put yourself there and you feel it. All right. How does that sound compared to something like this? I see myself in this home because this home will nurture me. I'll be able to find the truly who I am, and the space that I have in this 4,000 feet square feet in this large home is nowhere near the limitless bound that I have inside of me. I can feel the smells, and I just wonder what the bees are thinking when they're making the pollen, and they're doing the honey, and the sun that is shining, of how great it is that I can nurture my body. You see what I mean? What sounds better is one going out and one coming in. Which sounds a little better? Now, whether or not it's in or out, the point is the solution is to try and go within. Because whenever we go out, there's always something that is in the way. We see this so many times when people say, I want to be rich, I want to make a lot of money, I want to have lots of clients, I want to open up a health spa or a center, I want to do, and list all the things that they want, and it's all exuding. And yet, when they come in for a reading, we find out there's all kinds of issue relating to money. And they didn't understand that, because what happens is when in an early age, when your parents are arguing about money, how come we didn't pay this bill? Well, because we couldn't. We didn't have enough money last month, so we had to sort of pick and choose whether to pay hydro or to pay the gas or whatever. So I paid that, and now they shut off our gas. Now what are we going to do? And so, in other words, you're arguing about money. As a child, you're seeing money is the culprit because you love your mom and dad, right? So it's not their fault, but it's always money. And it's always near the end of the month when they're trying to get things going. And then something happens where the car breaks down and all the money has to go there. So someone has to go to work. They have to fix the car to go to work, and there's not enough money. So in other words, money was always an issue. And as you grow up, those issues start to get buried. So here you are as an adult, I want money. And the solution goes out. That's why it doesn't work. Because your opinion or your focus on money is conflicting with the money issue that you have inside, that you don't want money. In fact, when we get really down in there and we get deep, at one point, a client would say, I literally hate money. Why? Because of all the problems it caused my parents. My brother couldn't go to college. I couldn't go to college. I hate money. That's why I hate charging for things. But you're using the same energy that you want money to come in. But you see, it's conflicting. It's not agreeing with your inner being. That's why you have to go in first, solve all those things from an unlimited source. Then, when all the tumblers align, then you project it out. You'll have a much better chance of manifesting when you go in first. Does that make sense? All right? And it's also converting energy, whatever, even if you had a bad childhood, and many of us had. I could list so many in people that are going through things in terms of stories and how they've been abused, neglected, and they had to move out of the house at 13, and how they were hit and bullied, and they sort of stumbled through adolescent bait, and it's a wonder that they're still alive, he says. And I was beaten all the time, but yet when I had kids, I never touched my kids. I would never beat my kids because I know what it feels like to be beaten, and I'd never do that. So when you take an energy that's that toxic, you're just like a lotus flower. You know where a lotus flower grows? In one of the stinkiest, dirtiest water you could think of, in the swamp. And it's all where there's lots of algae, there's mud, there's no real fish to speak of. And yet this is the most beautiful plant that you could see, and it's so symmetrical. It takes the energy from that toxic environment and turns it into beauty. That's what you are essentially when you move something that is bad and you turn it into good. An aquarium filter does the same thing, right? It takes all the fish scales and all the things that are the dirty in the fish tank. It goes through this pump, filters it, and just sends out clean water. So in other words, it is a process where you take negative energy or dirty energy. It doesn't have to be negative. It could just be stagnant. It could be whatever it is. It's just not usable. It's considered garbage. It's considered useless, stagnant. And you turn it into something beautiful. That's beautiful. That's only something that an angel can do, male or female. It doesn't matter. You take a little kid that has no confidence in himself, and all a coach has to do is saying, I saw you throw the ball the other day, and you got quite an arm there, kid. I don't know what it is about you, but I see some great things coming out of you. And then you put him on the mound, and because he thinks that I might have something, and then all that energy goes to it, and magic happens. And how long did that take to tell this little kid? 10 seconds, 12 seconds, didn't cost a dime. Yet you turn it into something beautiful. Okay. One more quick story. A series of psychologists that did an experiment years ago, and they built an experimental house. And what they did was they constructed this house, and they told the builders, make this house made for adults, but in the perspective of how children would be in this house. So in other words, where the ceiling is usually 8 feet or 9 feet, make it 30 feet. All the chairs that are in this house. So I wanted to go where people would sit, where it's at people's neck, where a child's would be. And I want the table to be so high that people can't reach it. They got to get up on the chair to get to the table. And I want the doorknobs to be out of reach as well. All the light switches out of reach as well. Okay? And so then after it was constructed, they sent in perfectly normal people, like a whole family, and they found out within several days that there was some neurotic and very, very, really, like they were angry. They were in a point where they're frustrated. They just couldn't function in this home. They said, "Why did you put us here? This is it's not really conditional to what we are doing. What's the point of this?" And what psychologists wanted to really emphasize here is this is the world of a child, where the child is looking at things, and it's a struggle for them to get up on a chair. It's a struggle for them to reach for a light switch or reach for a doorknob, and they need a step stool for everything. And so for what is easy for us, for a child, it's an incredible challenge. And so in other words, the child is living in the home of giants. And so when a child is doing that, they look around and they see themselves as tiny. They see themselves as insignificant, powerless in some cases. And when I read that article, I said, well, wait, let's take this a step further, because when we go back to our ancestors, to when we were nomads, when we were a cave, like really way back, when we were living in caves, we were sitting on the floor and eating, and all the children were at the same height as everybody else. So they saw the food like everybody else, and it gave them that equality. And then so they didn't have, as Spirit said anyway, because I was asking, did kids have that same powerless feeling? And absolutely not, because they felt equal. And even in today's culture, there are still countries that they sit down for dinner and it's a small table and everyone's on the floor. And it's interesting that the economic condition and the mental health issues and many other things that are happening in the youth in that country isn't like other countries. And I'm just wondering if there's something in that maybe kids, when they have this boost in life, because if you look at it, when you're 6 years old, that's when you're probably tall enough to reach the doorknobs or reach the light switches. So you've got 6 years there of development, psychologically, physically, mentally, emotionally, so on, up to 6 years before you feel like you're part of everything and you don't feel so small anymore. But what do doctors say? The first 3 years of a human life is the most important, because that develops their entire psychological profile for the rest of their life. So all we're saying is, when we are looking at the boxed is feeling, look at it in the perspective of who is there. Who are we looking at? What is it like if you brought yourself down to exactly what your child is seeing? If you have a grandson or a granddaughter or a son or daughter that is in the 3, 4, 5 in that area, go down to their level and see what their world is like at that level for maybe a few hours. And you might see something that you didn't see before that they see all the time. And this is part of that boxed in feeling, that they feel disempowered. And so no wonder, and this is just natural. This has nothing to do with sound, nothing to do with what the environment will give them, or economic or anything. This is strictly growing up. And we do this all the time. So it just wanted to mention that in this area. So in this meditation, I've developed it. It's a thing called tenacity. And it's a way that we're going to totally change the way that we're going to change our energy and change our perspective of things. At the very end, they're going to be talking about the skylight. And what they're referring to is at the top of your head in the crown chakra. Remember, we talked about the skylight where you could remove the window, and if you put it back on, the light comes in. That's how the light comes in through our system. And it's this skylight at the top. So that's what they're referring to at the very end of this podcast. Okay. So I want you to get comfortable, take a nice deep breath, breathe in the color red. Okay. And we're going to start in just a few minutes, and it's about 25 minutes long. So we're going to be right on time. This will be great. Okay. We'll see you in a little bit. To open up this thing inside of you that makes you limitless. And this is where strength comes from. You have no idea where. You'll have all kinds of insight. There'll be 4 or 5 options to do something where before you couldn't even think of one. And it's this key, it's this gift that you are given. Each one of us are given this. In this particular meditation, what we want you to do is this light that is inside of you, we want you to send light out of the top of your head, like one of those show lights that they see in Hollywood, Academy Award light, okay, if I'm describing this properly, and have it go towards the universe that's coming back, because the universe is always sending light to you. And we want you to meet them halfway. Your light's going up, your universe is coming with their light towards you, and when they connect, is you blend that light of the universe and you, and then that light will come back to you in its most purest form, but it also comes back because you've sent something out. Tenacity is about getting out of yourself so that the mind has no way to enter. That's why we want you to send out light through the top of your head, because your mind does not understand that. Mind can't creep in because you're doing something totally against what it knows in this life. Then what we want you to do is, once you got whatever message you got of how to keep moving forward no matter what happens, if it's a business challenge, if it's a family challenge, whatever's going on, how do we keep moving forward is the question that we need to ask. And then, once you've got those answers, what we want you to do is, this time, in the intersection of those 2 lights that are above you, halfway when the universe and your light meets, we want you to send a beam of light to a loved one. Someone who is down, who has their head down, who's really having a hard time, who's struggling with many things. And send light to them so that they can find their key in that way. When you do that, and you feel that that's been done, see, keep in mind, you're not sending your own energy to these people. You're sending
universal energy to them, which makes it more empowering for you. Then we want you to send that light to your neighbors. People left and the right of you, maybe down your street, but basically your neighbors. We also want you to send it to all the animals in that area. All the groundhogs, all the rabbits, any land animal. If there's a little lake, send it to the fish, all the birds, anything that flies. So you're sending that energy to any living thing in that neighborhood. And then breathe in white light. And when you breathe out white light, how does that feel? That your energy is now somehow impacting these living things, including humans. Then send it to your township. If you have a little township in that area, send it to all those people and all the living things in there. Then send it to a city, whether it's Ottawa, Gatineau, wherever you are, Prince Edward Island. We have people in New York, and we have people in Copenhagen. Send it to that city. Then send it to the country. Then the continent. Then send it to the world. Like that. Just sort of keep expanding your energy. We'll talk about what this does to your energy, because now you get out of your system. You get out of your system that the mind doesn't understand this. That's why it's going to work. When the beam of light goes up, have it connect, send that light to you first. The light that comes back to you, just send out a gratitude thing. Thank you very much for this energy. I really needed this at this time. And now, because I'm topped up, I'd like to send it to other people that might need it as well.
Where in the body do we take it in to ask the questions?
It usually goes to your heart, because the heart is connected to the universe in that way. But what we're trying to do is we're sending that light back to the universe. So you're meeting him halfway. The soul star is your light, basically. All right, so it comes out of the top of your head in this soul star, and then keep going the other way.
Tony?
Yes?
You know how you said one family member? Can you send it to the light?
Absolutely. Send it to one for now that is most needed. And then after that, send it to all of them. Even if they're family members that you're not getting along with, and that because it's not about judgment, whatever strife there might be within a family, and all of us have seen our relationship with our family changes. You know, sometimes we had a very hard time with our parents, but after a while, now the relationship is different. For those people that are having a really tough time are probably the ones that are very aggressive and judgmental now. The reason they are is because they're in darkness. If you send them light, you can see perhaps. Now, what they do with it is still their choice, but the thing is, you're not in that position where you're judging. You're going to send it to them anyway and let them deal with it. Now, some people have mentioned that when the music starts, they can't hear the tuning forks, and that's okay, because they're not forks that are necessarily that you need to hear, because this works on deaf people as well, unborn children. It's all about vibration. It's about energy. So just make the experience, and if you do fall asleep, it's okay. Take a nice deep breath. And I want you to really fully feel that you are an incredible and essential part of this earth. That you're here to contribute something. That you're here to make an impact in an energetic way. To be able to move forward, and we're not going to stand in our own way. We're going to be impactful just by remaining who we are. Because there's no fear. There's only love and appreciation. I want you to start from the top of your head and relax your scalp, relax the inside muscle, And you can feel as you're moving down from your head that your eyes on the inside are starting to relax. If you were tired a moment ago, this is what that energy needs, is that element of just being with yourself. You're not susceptible to the negative influences of anything. You take a nice deep breath and you blow out. You'll start to feel your cheeks and your tongue, your throat relax. The shoulders, move them around a little bit just to relax them. We put the world on those things because of obligations, because of worry, because of the fact that we have to do well if we're going to be achieving something. It's not so much that. It's just relaxing so your brilliance can come out. It's not about pushing something through. It's about letting something break through. As that energy comes down your arms, right to the end of your hands, put little openings at the end of your fingertips so that energy can come out. So if there's anything locked in your wrist, in your joints, in your elbows, it can just go right through like water. As your arm fills up and overspills into the cavity of your chest, breathe in and just relax your chest, your heart, and your lungs. Everything tightens up in that chest area very quickly. Spirit says we just need to take life a little less seriously. Things are important, yes, but it doesn't have to be so serious where we can tighten up. Things will work out on its own, much easier when we're in a calm state. In your stomach, your spleen, your gallbladder, as you're moving down your body, just tell everybody to relax. Although you may not feel it, know that they're listening. Your adrenals, this is the part that kicks in when you need that extra surge of power. It's the nos in your body. Down your hips, thighs, your knees, right to the end of your feet. Put two openings on the bottom of each feet, about the size of a hockey puck, so energy can come out. So anything that has been stagnant or doesn't need to be there, you now have the exhaust opening where it can leave on its own.
We'll see you in about 10 minutes. Slowly come out of the state that you're in. Just take a look at your light that's coming in through the top of your head. Just breathe that light in. It's now coming in through the top of your head. And when you're ready, I want you to go to the very top of this skylight and close the window. Once the window is closed, take a last look at that light coming in through the inside of your head, looking out. The soul star is now back where it was. Now in some way you are much more resilient. Your tenacity is so much higher because you're not letting your mind dictate where you are based on what's happening on this earth, but rather connected to something else. Take a nice deep breath. Make your way back to the room. Just before you fully come out of this state, know that you're amazing. All of you are bred to be successful. The energy doesn't have to be learned. It's inside of you. We just have to remove the things that prevent it from coming out. These large achievements that you do that in the beginning seem so insurmountable, to get a part in a Broadway stage, to be top of your league in your business, to be the best in your industry, to be the best mom, the best dad, to be the best is inside of you. You're discovering yourself through this obstacle, so thank it. When we push obstacles away, isn't it interesting that more comes? The last thing the energy of an obstacle would ever figure on is you thanking it and welcoming it. Give it the gratitude because it's made you stronger, more resilient. Slowly come back. Take a few more breaths. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. How's everybody doing? Just want you to read you something here. I picked this up this morning, first thing when I woke up. The Spirit told me to go to some place, and I just caught this in time. It says, "Let me tell you about a voice. Not this voice that you hear, that all of you can hear, but the voice inside of you, your inner voice, the one that whispers, the one that tells you when to leave, the one that tells you when to start something new, one that says yes or no, tells you who your friends are, what you need to do next, the one that gives it to you straight, the one that tells you what's best for your kids and what's best for you and what you need. It merely whispers So don't let the noisy world drown out its message to you. No man, woman, or algorithm knows what's right for you and your family. Always trust your inner voice. Everyone has it. Few listen to it. It is all about following something that is greater than yourself. I'm just going to post the link of that particular podcast. Now, I have it in podcast form, but I also have the YouTube link, which is also posted. You can listen to the YouTube version that we saw today, or the podcast version, which is all auditory, on the meditation only podcast. It's the first one that you'll see at the top, the tenacity one. All of them have been re-engineered, and so whatever you felt, it's a start of something. We're all at different paces. We're all at different rates. And I have a couple of minutes if anybody wants to share how they thought, what they thought of this experience, what they saw during their meditation.
I had a huge amount of, in the end, a huge amount of yawning, which I know is releasing.
Yes.
I wasn't able to stop yawning. And I thought to myself, this is probably the most profound healing tenacity to just stay with it. I had to do some other things, and then to sit down with the meditation and stay with it. And then the yawning began and the healing continued. Someone once said to me something about, thinking outside the box when I was a teenager. And I said, what box? It's like, what box? There is no box. And I realized that's how my life has become now. There is no box now. And I'm grateful, Tony. Thank you so much. Spirit works through you in such divinely, divine intervention. Exactly what's needed at that moment comes through you. The way you picked up what you read to us at the end in the morning is like bingo. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, and if anybody is yawning, and though that is as I wrote down, it's a clearing mechanism, and it is something that is of lower vibration, and that's the fastest way it could come out through a yawn. Is that's the way I do it. Now there are other ways, but yawning is the most respectful. The other is flatulating. If you have a lot of that, I prefer yawning. It's better, and it's but in my meditation. I saw my son actually in several instances, and he's such a good man. He's such a strong, connected man, and Spirit said, "What does that make me?" So every time I listen to these stuff, it's just more stuff comes out. It's just amazing. Being picked for this, it's just quite an honor. I really consider it an honor. There's so much that I have to do to keep up, physically and everything, and I do all that I can. And it's always a pleasure for me to be with you guys on Fridays. It's a way for me to release all this stuff that Spirit is telling me, because I'm getting it, and I don't want to hold it and keep it inside of me. You have to hear this, and if you know anybody that also needs to hear these words, send them the link, send them whatever I can. It's I don't charge for any of it. It is all about connecting and getting these frequencies or this insight to people that are lost. And that's their definition, not mine. They tell me that they're lost and they're looking for a voice. And this voice that you're looking for is inside of you. So when you keep looking for a voice outside, I think that's where you start to become disconnected. Look for the voice inside. The voice inside is connected to everything outside, just like a lock. I hope this was of benefit to you guys, and have yourself a great weekend, and I love you all. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Love you too, Tony.
I really tried not to break down at the end there.
Oh, I love you, Tony. Thank you so much. Virtual hugs. And
We here for you too. We're sending all the love to you, Tony.
Love you guys.